First Principles, by Thomas Ricks, offers a fresh perspective on the founding of America, diverging from the traditional emphasis on Enlightenment ideas associated with figures like John Locke. Instead, the book delves into the profound impact of Greek and Roman history and philosophy on America's first four presidents, illuminating the enduring presence of classical ideas in the nation's core values and aspirations. In modern times, the American education system seems to have marginalized the study of Greek and Roman classics. However, the influence of ancient thought can still be discerned in various aspects of American society. A visit to Washington, D.C., showcases buildings designed in the classical style, while political discourse features references to Republicans and Democrats, words derived from Latin and Greek respectively. Beyond aesthetics and linguistics, the profound impact of Greece and Rome on America extends far and wide. The writings of the ancient world held a central position in shaping the perspectives of America's founding leaders as they worked to forge a new nation. In the face of contemporary challenges and national upheaval, it becomes imperative for today's Americans to re-examine and realign with their nation's fundamental principles. Within this book summary, you'll discover intriguing insights, such as George Washington's favorite play, parallels between John Adams and Roman politician Cicero, and an exploration of how the Constitution embodies Epicurean principles. By uncovering these classical foundations, readers can gain a deeper understanding of the timeless ideas that continue to shape the United States. Chapter 1. Revisiting Virtue, Unraveling Classical Ideals in America's Founding Era. The word virtue has evolved over time, now synonymous with morality, and in the past, associated with female chastity. However, during America's founding, the term held a distinct meaning for the Founding Fathers. It embodied public-mindedness, prioritizing the common good over self-interest. Fascination with the concept of virtue ran deep among the founders, evident in the numerous occurrences of the word in Revolutionary-era writings, even surpassing mentions of freedom. The influence of classical principles was unmistakable as they shaped the foundation of the new nation. Modern interpretations of virtue differ significantly from those held by the founders, just as their perception of the classical world contrasted with contemporary views. Greek works by Homer, Plato, and Herodotus are now highly regarded, while Romans were once revered, and Greeks considered less stable. Historical figures like Cicero illustrate this shift in perspective. Once idolized by America's founders as a skilled orator and successful leader, Cicero is now often seen differently. The Roman Republican government also served as a guiding light for the founders, with figures like Alexander Hamilton lauding the heights of human greatness achieved by the Roman Republic. Yet, even as Rome inspired and guided the founders, it also led them astray on certain matters, particularly concerning the practice of slavery. Many of the founders justified human bondage using classical theories, highlighting the complexities and imperfections of these remarkable individuals. Despite their flaws, the founders managed to create a republic that steadily expanded rights for its citizens. Examining the classical ideas that shaped their thinking remains a worthwhile endeavor, offering insights into the foundations of the nation they built. Chapter 2. Washington's Path to Virtuous Leadership, the Influence of Cato, and Lessons from Defeat. In the pre-revolutionary era, a play called Cato emerged as one of the most popular dramatic works, captivating audiences with lengthy speeches and memorable one-liners. Although the drama may now appear stiff and difficult to read, it held significant appeal for 18th-century viewers. Notably, Cato held a special place in the heart of George Washington, serving as an exemplar of the virtue he aspired to embody. The lead character, Cato, represented a paragon of virtue who rejected the trappings of his privileged birth and devoted his political life to fighting government corruption. Unlike many of his fellow founders, Washington was a man of action rather than words, acquiring his education on the battlefield rather than at a prestigious university. His first major combat experience during the French and Indian War showcased both success and bitter defeat. After an initial victory against the French, a series of unfortunate circumstances led to devastating losses for Washington's troops. These experiences left a deep impact on him, particularly as he witnessed the consequences of arrogance and failure to adapt to challenging circumstances. When Washington later assumed the role of commander of the Continental Army during the American Revolution, he carried the lessons learned from past defeats. Despite lacking formal education, he developed into a true Roman leader, exemplifying discipline and virtue. Washington's journey towards virtuous leadership was guided by the inspiration of Cato and the profound lessons learned from adversity on the battlefield. Chapter 3. Washington's evolution as a military strategist, the path of a modern Fabius. Though revered today as a military genius, George Washington faced considerable challenges in the early days of the Revolutionary War. His initial strategies failed against the well-equipped and numerous British forces. After heeding the counsel of General Nathanael Greene, Washington adopted a defensive war of posts approach, which also proved unsuccessful and led to costly setbacks. Recognizing the need for a different strategy, Washington turned to the example of the Roman general Fabius, who had successfully defeated the renowned Hannibal of Carthage in ancient times. Like Washington, Fabius was known for his deliberate thinking and devised a careful plan. Rather than seeking outright victory, Fabius focused on denying his opponent decisive triumphs. Similarly, Washington employed a similar strategy by disrupting British supply lines, hindering foraging parties, and maintaining his army's camps in strategically advantageous positions. Though he rarely engaged the British directly, Washington wore down his opponents, depleted their resources, and slowed their progress to achieve ultimate victory. Even after securing American independence, Washington demonstrated his commitment to public virtue. In a symbolic act reminiscent of the Roman leader Cincinnatus, he declined the opportunity to become an American Julius Caesar, a military dictator. Instead, Washington chose to step down as commander of the Continental Army and return to his farm, embodying the utmost reverence for public virtue. This transformation marked the evolution of Washington into a modern-day Fabius, showcasing his strategic brilliance and selfless dedication to the nation. Chapter 4. Cicero and Adams, a tale of rising from humble beginnings to political greatness. The Roman orator Cicero, born to parents of modest origins in 106 BC, achieved remarkable prominence, earning the esteemed title of a new man in Roman society by holding high office. Cicero's zenith came in 63 BC when he confronted and foiled the Catiline conspiracy through a series of compelling speeches, earning him admiration from America's founding generation. John Adams, one of the esteemed founders, deeply idolized Cicero and saw reflections of himself in the Roman orator. Like Cicero, Adams emerged from humble backgrounds and attained greatness through diligence and eloquence. Both were driven to become honorable, respected, and influential figures, yet they shared a common flaw: vanity. Adams' fascination with Cicero led him to read the orator's speeches aloud at night and write about him in his diary. Before becoming president, Adams played a crucial role in American politics, being the first to call for a revolution. In 1765, he published a visionary pamphlet, foreseeing a future of liberty for millions of citizens in America. He further argued in essays that Americans possessed a God-given right to liberty, igniting a newfound awareness of rights and liberties among his fellow Bostonians and paving the way for the idea of a potential revolution. Chapter 5. Thomas Jefferson, a founding romantic with Epicurean vision. Thomas Jefferson, a remarkable founding father, stood apart from his peers in various ways. His aesthetic inclinations led him to music, wide reading, and architectural design. Despite living before the Romantic movement, Jefferson displayed traits that align with its emphasis on emotion over reason, making him a forebear of the movement. Influenced significantly by ancient Greek thought, Jefferson's profound connection with Greek authors, especially Euripides, is evident in his educational diary, The Commonplace Book. It is intriguing that Epicurus, the Greek philosopher known for his views on tranquility and pleasure, is notably absent from Jefferson's early records, suggesting he encountered Epicureanism later in life. Yet, when he did, it had a profound impact on his thinking. Jefferson summarized the Epicurean philosophy as the pursuit of happiness through virtue, which comprised prudence, temperance, fortitude, and justice. These values are prominently reflected in Jefferson's masterpiece, the Declaration of Independence. In a notable departure from John Locke's formulation, Jefferson declared that all men are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Here, happiness embodies Epicureanism's elevated meaning, envisioning a future centered on the well-being of all Americans rather than just private property. Jefferson also emphasized prudence and justice, essential concepts in Epicurean thought. The Declaration laid the blueprint for the burgeoning nation, reflecting Jefferson's unique blend of romantic ideals and Epicurean vision, for which Americans owe him gratitude. Chapter 6: The Scottish Enlightenment, Inspiring America's Fourth President. In the midst of the 18th century, Scotland underwent an intellectual revolution known as the Scottish Enlightenment, while its neighboring England faced a period of intellectual stagnation. The movement significantly impacted the founding fathers of America, especially James Madison, the nation's fourth president. Scottish Enlightenment flourished as a result of a high literacy rate, with approximately 75% of Scots being able to read in 1750, in contrast to just 53% of English people. English universities like Oxford were in decline, while Edinburgh and Glasgow universities thrived, embracing modernization. James Madison encountered the ideas of the Scottish Enlightenment during his time at Princeton, where Scottish professors introduced him to French, classics, logic, and moral philosophy. Lectures on the importance of governmental checks and balances left a lasting impression, and he was deeply influenced by the works of the French philosopher Montesquieu. Montesquieu's influential book, The Spirit of the Laws, drew upon the histories of Greece and Rome, asserting that republics were only viable in small nations, as larger ones risked succumbing to internal divisions. Madison's two masterworks, the American Constitution and the Federalist Papers, bear the imprint of Montesquieu's ideas. In the Federalist Papers, Madison addressed concerns about politicians forsaking virtue for partisanship. He envisioned a government that embraced partisanship but balanced it through three branches that could check and balance each other. Madison also countered Montesquieu's notion of small republics by advocating for a large national republic. This approach divided the nation into numerous communities and parties, preventing one group from dominating the rest. Additionally, a robust federal government could hold the nation together during regional conflicts, as seen later in the Civil War. Chapter 7: From Classical Framework to Loyal Opposition, America's Shifting Political Landscape. In the early days of America, the term loyal opposition had not yet been coined, leaving the founders struggling to understand healthy political competition and partisanship. Instead, they relied on Roman terms, with Federalists like John Adams and Alexander Hamilton branding their opponents, the Anti-Federalists, as Catalans, implying treachery to the state. The Federalist vision of a government without partisanship hinged on the assumption that virtuous men would be in power. George Washington personified this virtue and validated their vision. However, Adams' presidency shattered this ideal as he aggressively suppressed growing partisanship through unpopular measures, compromising the Federalist vision. With Thomas Jefferson succeeding Adams, a shift began as Jefferson embraced partisanship and acknowledged the importance of respecting the rights of all citizens, regardless of their political views. Virtue took a backseat in Jefferson's inaugural address, signaling a departure from the old classical way of thinking. As time passed, classicism lost its prominence, becoming associated with elitism and upper-class ignorance. Emotion started to prevail over reason, leading to a decline in the influence of classicism. Furthermore, a growing awareness of the inconsistency of slavery with the principle of freedom further eroded classical ideals. As America moved forward, loyal opposition and a changing political landscape replaced the classical framework that once shaped the nation's understanding of governance and partisanship. Summary: America's founding fathers once looked to the civilizations of ancient Greece and Rome as beacons of wisdom, illuminating the path towards establishing a thriving republican government. Not only did they draw inspiration from these historical precedents, but they also admired and sought to emulate the virtues of their Greek and Roman heroes. However, as James Madison crafted the Constitution and authored the Federalist Papers, a gradual deviation from the classical model began to take shape. Consequently, American classicism has since waned, leaving a mere shadow of its former grandeur. For a more enlightened course of action, let us return to the timeless principles of virtue and the common good. Although the notion of virtue might have evolved over time, we can still pay homage to this foundational value by actively engaging in our local governance, participating in respectful and constructive debates, and courageously speaking up against those who undermine the fundamental principles of our nation, even when they align with our own perspectives. Most importantly, our discourse should pivot towards a focus on the greater public good and the welfare of society as a whole, transcending mere individual rights. By doing so, we can work towards revitalizing the essence of America's founding ideals. Now, thank you for taking the time to watch, and if you found value in this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And in case you want to buy the book, use the link in the description. Trust me, you won't regret it.